people watching, if you saw the thumbnail, you know that we're going to be discussing Nosferatu and everything about this movie. So yeah, we're going to be getting into this. But for people that have not seen this movie, at least I recommend go see this movie. I think the fourth or fifth mainstream film by Robert Eggers. And if you do not know who that director is, he's one of the infamous directors. Well, he is the infamous director that did The Lighthouse, The Vivitch, and The Northman. I didn't see The Northman, so I don't know how good that was, but I know I enjoyed The Lighthouse and Vivitch, or The Witch, or I don't know the correct pronunciation. I've heard people call it different things, but
You're gonna have to tell me about those. I am a shithead and I have not seen either of those.
you would enjoy the Witch for sure, or Vivitch. You would definitely
Okay.
enjoy.
Okay.
It's a dark, gritty film. Essentially, family has this witch who is cursed them, and you see the family in this like small pilgrim age village like die over time, and there's this evil goat and all this crazy shit happening. And then The
Okay.
Lighthouse is like another movie where it's just like delirium happening. This is probably
Ooh.
my favorite Willem Dafoe performance. It's like him and Patrick.
Okay.
Oh my God, Patrick Robert Pattinson. It's just those two going crazy together, having crazy fun.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yes, it's a wild
How,
ass
like,
movie.
what do you think are like defining characteristics of this director?
I'd
And
have
like specific characteristics that like shown through in this movie. Can you speak to that or not?
first and foremost atmosphere. I think he does a solid job at like making you
Mhm.
feel as though
Yeah.
you're uncomfortable in a moment where you're supposed to be. Because some
Okay.
directors, like you have those directors who are like really big on jump scares or who are really big on like the gore. He's not as big on gore. He's really big on like the atmospheric horror. Like he wants to make you feel uncomfortable, make you feel the moment that he's putting you in. And that, and probably he
I
likes to
think
play all around with like perception in regards to what you're seeing. Is it real or time, space, and different things like that.
as far as gore went, I think he used like a nice amount of gore in
Mm-hmm.
this film. But I do think he did use gore. He used a little bit. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. The atmosphere is there. You can feel it in every aspect of how he designs like each shot and like cinematically. This is a very beautiful movie. Very beautiful movie.
Even in the shots that were like recaptured from the original, because for people that didn't know, this was, I guess, the best word for it is a remake, but it's essentially like an updated version of the like 1922 version that came out. It was like a really
I
old
would say it's
version.
reimagined.
Yeah, I think that's the best word for it.
Have you seen the original one?
Bits and pieces. Like I've seen like half of it. I think because I was in a class in college and I was at like a video film watching day, and I watched like half of it. We watched like this and like the
I
Maltese
watched the
Falcon.
whole film by choice. I think it was like Halloween, like maybe 2 years ago. I actually really enjoyed the film. It's kind of weird to watch a silent film and just
Mm-hmm.
experience a movie how they were originally experienced. And I went into this film kind of expecting more of, I mean, I guess a less reimagined version of this. So I was a little bit startled at this um reimagination of this, if you will.
Yeah, I will say I didn't know what to expect going in.
Yeah. Okay.
Because with the silent film way back in the day, there's like certain things that just you can't capture as much today. Because back then they didn't have audio design or like sound mixing and things like that that you would attribute to like most movies that you can kind of easily compare it to. Um,
Sure.
Even when it comes to effect, I know like when it comes to like lighting, they would have to like shoot some scenes in the daytime and just add some kind of
Mhm.
like grain filter or something over it for the lumetrics to color grade it in the way they wanted. So
Yep.
a lot of things were different from then to now. Um, but yeah, it was an interesting dichotomy to see that. One thing I will say that I was really looking forward to is seeing how they were going to update the aesthetics of Count Orc himself, which was another interesting thing because the original design of him, Count Orlok, he is like very rat in nature. And he's supposed to be
Yeah.
more like vampires. I guess at that point, he was looked at as more like a plague than the typical vampires we see in like the Blades or the Twilights and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I'm a
I
rat. I'm here to
like
spread evil and a plague.
I like. I like the rat aspect, and I was kind of, I guess, expecting a little bit more rat-like, and, like, I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, say what you got to say.
I hated the makeup design, and
Really?
everyone that said they loved it has a mustache. So I don't know if you guys are all in some type of league together, but I didn't like that part.
What about it did you not like though?
He had a literal mustache.
Is that
And
what it was?
also, I don't know. So don't get me wrong.
Mm,
The makeup was beautiful, but it felt like a little like too much for me. That might make some people irritated. But like I think they could have done more with less. Because they literally cast Bill Skarsgård. I couldn't see any of him in that. So like what was the point of
I can see your
casting him?
I can see your
You know what I
point
mean?
there.
It's okay. Either way, didn't I don't know why I didn't like why he wasn't like I either wanted him to be more handsome or more ugly. It was like
Mm.
too like we don't know what this is. Like I don't know. It didn't land for me as far as that part. Other than that and a few other aspects, dope movie, but I hated that that man had a mustache.
So for me, the way I looked at it, because I figured this is supposed to be like a smash up of a couple different designs we've seen from Dracula over the years. Because usually, if you look at like the Vlad Tepes design that people usually go with, he usually has the mustache. So I assumed it was like them trying to mesh the old with the new and kind of do that. I didn't hate it because initially I was trying to figure out again what he looked like because they did a great job throughout the film of hiding him in shadow and kind of building up. Because I feel like every other scene we saw him, you would get more and more reveal into what he looked like with the lighting. I think that was perfectly done because it kept him intimidating in a presence the entire time. I didn't ever feel like if I would have saw that mustache from the jump, I would have lost all intimidation after that. So the fact that we kind of built up to that, and then at the end, his design at the end was kind of gnarly, and I loved like they literally made him a rat. Like they went full on like he was built like a rat with the little legs, and he had like the big back. Because I was interested to see what he was built like.
All shriveled up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
All shriveled up.
And he was like again the aspects of him being a plague made sense too because he had like what's the words I'm looking for, like boils on his skin and different things like that to make him look real nasty and like he had like a leper essentially.
Yes.
I enjoyed the way he looked. I'm kind of indifferent on the mustache. I feel you. If you don't like it, I feel you on that one. I didn't really care the way. I was kind of looking at everything around the mustache. I'm not gonna lie to you because I was like, okay, I got to see his face.
That's fair. And I was also looking at everything around the mustache and looking for Bill Skarsgård because I love Bill Skarsgård.
He doesn't miss, man.
I love him.
He's been great. So when I first heard about this movie way back in the day, I say way back in the day.
I don't care what he's doing, I'll watch.
Literally, I think the only thing that does for me was Barbarian because he was in it for as much as I thought he was going to be. I feel like that was kind of a.
The first time I saw him was in Hemlock Grove on Netflix.
I don't think I watched Hemlock Grove. The first thing I saw him in was It movies.
It's weird, and it literally never is finished. Like the story ends on like, what the fuck was that? So I don't know. I loved it because he was in it. I don't even know if the story made sense looking back on it, to be honest with you. But that's the first time I saw him was in Hemlock Grove.
I love him. I love him so much because obviously him being at this point he's starting to get a reputation as being like creature actor a lot.
He's so horror coded. He's horror coded forever. It doesn't matter if he's in creature makeup. Outside of it, he's horror coded for sure.
Because it's crazy because I'm like, bro, you're sitting down. I can't even imagine how long it took them to do the prosthetics for this movie alone. Let alone, I know it took like what 8 hours plus for the It movies, him being Pennywise. So
I'm man, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I feel like Pennywise, the big part of his head was like foam latex, but I feel like the stuff they used in this movie looked like silicone to me. It just like looked more like skin and looked like more like silicone. Like they'd be using thinner prosthetics on him. But it looked like a lot of silicone. He obviously had contacts in because his eyes were really dark anytime you saw them. Unless they CGI'd them. I'm not sure.
I doubt it. I think Robert Eggers, at least from what I know of him, he seems like to be more of a
camera stuff.
Yeah. But to get into the cast really quickly, because this is the main thing that drew me into keeping track of this film over time anyway. When I first heard it announced, I heard Bill Skarsgård as Dracula, and I was like, okay, you got me on board there right away.
No, I literally went running. I went running.
Then I heard Willem Dafoe, and I was like, damn, Willem Dafoe too? Nicholas Hoult is in this, which is another crazy one for me. And then Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm so glad he's in a good movie after seeing Craven that just came out.
I
Which
haven't seen it yet.
don't waste your money.
Does it suck? Were you mad?
I did like a whole
Oh
20-minute
man.
video on why I didn't like it. It
I'll just watch the video.
If you're not a super Marvel fan or like a fan of that character, maybe you won't be as mad with it. But it's, at least for my opinion, there's not too many things that I think are objectively bad. This is one where I'm like, okay, I think this is an objectively bad movie, from like the way it's edited, the way it's ADR some stuff. It made it sound weird. There's a lot of stuff about that, but I did a video covering it. But that being said,
I'll just watch the video then.
I got that, and then I got to wash my palate with this because he was on 10 in here, and he did an amazing job in this film. Those are like my top. Yeah, those are my top 3 actors that I was looking at going into this. So seeing how great Lily Rose Depp was a big surprise for me. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I've heard that her other performances are equally as amazing, if not better. And she's born to like Johnny Depp, so maybe she's just born with like whatever it takes to be that type of person. Because she did. Her performance was beautiful. I think the casting went absolutely crazy. William Dafoe, anytime he was on screen, he just like takes over any scene he's in, which I kind of love about him. And it added a kind of like silly, like a dark. It was like a dark comedy with him, like any scene he was in. So I kind of like that layer, and I was not expecting that, but he brought a really weird and fun energy to the film, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it almost feels like the same connection Sam Jackson has with Quentin Tarantino. At this point, he's done a couple. I think he's done at least the bare minimum one Robert Eggers movie with The Lighthouse. It feels like Robert Eggers is getting roles specifically with him in mind. Like, hey, I want you to be this character because I know how you are and you would fit well here. Because this character felt perfectly crafted for Willem Dafoe and what he was doing. This is dope though. So for people that aren't aware, just to kind of give a quick synopsis of the film, essentially it is this guy who is is he a lawyer or a real estate agent? I guess I don't one of the two or something of the sort like that.
Really bad with like little details like that in there. I just know he was a businessman.
Yeah, we'll call him a businessman. He works for. I'll call him a lawyer because he works for a firm. Like that's confirmed. Like he works for a firm.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair.
And he is hired by his firm to go overseas to Transylvania and close out a deal for a home being bought by this weird man named Count Orlok, who at this point you kind of know is Dracula at this point. He travels a good distance to get to his castle and sign this deal. And Count Orlok is like, hey, you can sign this deal, but on the low, I want to give you this contract for you to sign your wife over to me, like kind of release your marriage. Pretty much I'm giving you divorce papers and tricking you into signing divorce papers. And while you're here, I'm going to scare you and mess with your mind to get you to do this without you even knowing that you're doing it. Because for whatever reason, Count Orlok has this like almost telepathic like bond with this man's wife, which is Lily Rose Depp's character. And they've had relations to some extent, which I was kind of weirded out because she says when she was younger, she had this want for companionship. So in my mind, I'm like, how young were you when this first happened?
No, literally, this part is the most problematic part for me.
So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and speak on it. What did you have to say about it? Because that aspect was like the biggest. Because this movie is
that
really
aspect aspect is introduced within the first like 4 minutes of the movie. Because if that's what she's telling us, the first few scenes of the movie is of that happening to her for the first time. So immediately, I'm just like, literally, what the fuck are we watching, guys? Like, what's happening? So the movie continues on. And I think that's one of the problems that I had with this storyline was that it was tied to this idea that a woman's passion can be like easily hypnotized out of her and like owned by somebody. And there was the scene where they get to the part and she's like on her knees and like holding onto her husband and she was like, "You'll never please me the way he does." And I was just like, okay, you kind of like took me out of the moment there. Is this a fucking Dracula movie? What are we doing?
This movie is really horny. I will say that. Like,
that literally took me like, this is not a horror movie to me, and this is what I'm gonna say. It might upset some people.
okay,
This is not a horror movie to me. This is a dark fantasy movie.
I can see that. This movie.
I went with someone that is very easily scareable, and she went to this movie and was prepared to be scared, and she was like, literally, there was no fear within me this whole movie, and I'm like, that's kind of upsetting. I wanted this movie to be like scary. And I was kind of scared, like, oh, this is like scary. Like, I'm creeped out by Dracula now. Dracula's a creep.
So we got somebody in the chat here just to address the comment.
Oh my god.
No, I'm looking at it and I'll read it off to you. Okay. My man, We the Other says the shadowing for Orlok was good. The first time seeing him coming out of his coffin, he looked monstrous as well as his death, but I felt for most his face looked too human. I can see your point there. Yeah.
It just like the features that Bill Skarsgård already has are very like imposing almost, and like he can make facial expressions that are imposing. And I feel like what happened with his makeup was they didn't allow the same movement and like intrusion that his natural features already give them, because like certain parts of his nose was really softened, and I didn't like that. That like took me out of like it made it too human for me. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I agree. Seeing how he looked in it and how they were allowing him to like use his face to act a lot, I think I could see that point.
But he was still truly it, you know, like if he's gonna be a character actor, like these people work so hard on like using their facial expressions and their ability to express to like make these characters, and I just wish I could have seen more of that.
Right. But to the earlier point though, the movie being overly horny, I'm not gonna lie. Because even to your point, I will agree there, because there are even instances where it wouldn't even be in a scene where that was calling for them to discuss her sexual relation with Orlok. There's like one in particular that comes to mind where they're discussing her. It's when they first introduced Willem Dafoe's character, I'm pretty sure. And he goes to see her, and she's having an episode in the middle of the day. And she's like having a seizure, but she's like moaning really hard.
No, the episode, that's literally what they were doing. The episodes were literally that. And like, it just made me think of like, I'm just going to be so real in this conversation, like how modern gynecology began and how like women were literally like, there was majorly abusive things happening in like modern, like, which led to modern medicine. And it just like was a little bit reminiscent of that. So it was like this movie scared me in ways that were like much deeper than I thought they were going to be, and like in a yuckier way.
So to speak on, because I want to speak on like that plot point really quickly, because I think this is like the meat and potatoes of the movie itself, is this whole sexual deviancy that she has with Orlok. For me, what I took away from this film was the whole aspect of someone not being, for lack of a better term, not being thirsty for companionship, because when you accept any companionship, even if it's not the most healthy. Because you saw her discuss that early on, where she said that when she was younger, she just wanted it because she felt lonely. She wanted it and she got it from him. And in the moment, she felt that bliss. But she said quickly over time, it was like torture. And when she met her husband, okay, now I understand what real companionship is with her husband now. So it's almost like that crazy evil ex coming back around.
Is like, no, literally what makes me sick about that is that like this is so reflective of like real things and like abusers. It almost like was like an abuser relationship too. Like it reminded me of that, how she talks about how she's young and like she still thinks about this person, and like it's her passion is tied to him. And I was like, that just deeply fucks me up. I don't like that part of the plot was so hard for me to swallow. Maybe that's all part of the horror of this film, and that was the point of it. But I think that was the hard part for me to swallow about the reimagined version of Nosferatu.
Because he definitely groomed her, for sure. If you're talking about how young she was and her describing the relationship, it was like, oh, you were groomed by this man.
And like, I either wanted her to be like lusting after this man, or like maybe being literally horrified by it, but doing it because she's trying to save her husband.
Mm.
But it was like it was teetering too much in the middle, and I was just like, this is making me feel insane. This movie.
Yeah, I feel like the route they could have taken for this is the similar route they did with like early Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, to where you can maybe allude to that relationship
Love that.
and not have
I
to
would
be
have
so.
loved that.
I'm just like, I get
Like
what you
literally so straightforward about it.
Yeah, because I get what they went for. I think even the beginning scene of her like convulsing, and because initially when I saw her like convulsing on the ground, I didn't know that's what that was. So when you later
immediately know.
I didn't. I was like, man, she's having a seizure. Or she's getting. I thought she was getting attacked initially.
I literally immediately know. And as soon as that, it's like, because I knew immediately. And I feel like that's giving me some perspective that you didn't. So I appreciate that perspective, because I just like, I immediately like looked at my friend and I'm like, okay, 5 minutes in, let's go.
I think it's just because what I was looking for. In my mind, I'm looking for monster shit, because I'm like, okay, Dracula's here already off the rip. I'm like, oh, he's here to like kill her for sure. And then they fast forward.
That's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be like more violent. It was like too tender in the weirdest, worst way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, I think that plays into like the grooming aspect of it, where he's like speaking sweet nothings into her, and then once he realized that she's very much so understanding of what he's doing, he's like, okay, now I command you to do this. And that's one of the things that I enjoyed the most about this character, is the development they gave him in regards to the narcissism, the egotistical nature of him, because he was like really big on like commanding stuff. And
maybe I'm just like deeply traumatized, and that's why this movie just like,
that's probably what it is, because I've
jolted my life.
I've been blessed not to have a toxic relationship like that. So I feel like
you never have one.
Hopefully I don't.
Never ever have one.
Knock on wood. I probably shook my whole camera up, but I don't care. Hopefully I don't.
Hope you never do.
That is something interesting though. And I would love to see more women's perspectives on that, to see like if this movie was like more of a horror for a different reason.
As soon as I started watching this, I was just like, this is such a man-coded movie. Men are gonna love this movie. And
you think
men are gonna love this movie? Mm-hmm. Yeah, every man I've talked to, they were like, "There's nothing wrong with that movie. It's the best movie I've ever seen." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Nothing wrong with it. It's crazy.
Okay.
I felt like,
I know, like nothing wrong with it is crazy.
It feels like the Did you watch it was a really bad movie, but I think it was Black Christmas. They put out a while back, the remake for it, where they ascended. The director was trying to really get across the subplot of like date rape at college. So it was these sorority girls, and this fraternity was demonic, and they were essentially going around and murdering all the women into the sororities. And it was supposed to be like a whole subplot around that, but the director was very like straightforward and beating it into you. But that being the case, like I took this movie as a film, and maybe it's just the way I perceive things, and it could be a lot different from the normal man, but I saw it as something that it was showcasing the worst parts of, it's going to sound overplayed, but toxic masculinity at this point. It's the whole aspect of this one character who's very commanding and is very possessive over things. Like he feels like she is a possession for him. Because he can't just take her. He has to have her want him. He has to have the husband like give her up.
Why this movie is fucked up for me. This is literally.
But I think that's what makes.
Are we in therapy right now, or are we live streaming?
Maybe. But I think that's the horror in it, though. It's the aspect of, it's something that you can relate to and empathize with a lot more, and for some people sympathize with, because it's not just a monster. They had the monster stuff. They had like I think my favorite scene was the shadow hand over the city, and seeing how the city was going crazy. Like they had some of the iconic shots, but a lot of that stuff was crazy.
Don't get me wrong. No matter how I feel about the makeup or the whatever plots were happening, the movie is beautiful. It's undeniable. This movie is beautiful. You can take any shot and it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, bro. It looks. Because initially I was like, man, this is really dark. Like not just from like a tone, but like the literal like color grading for it. Like everything is so black. But then I understood,
but I like that. that is what made
Mm,
me feel like it, like the original film, the color grading of it, and then there were
hmm
certain scenes where the lighting, it quite literally looked black and white, which I loved.
hmm I feel like they were
So,
like lighting it up too over time. That was my biggest thing. Was like as the movie went on, you would the color reading for it would get a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter, and you would see more of
I
Orlok's
mean, how
face. And
beautiful is that though? Because the
yeah,
light was coming in the end, you know?
because you finish out like the last scene is finishing out on like morning, like sunrise, and it's like
Mhm.
really bright. And you see Orlok like
Everything.
100% everything from him, like literally from
Mhm.
rooter to tutor. You see everything on him. I think
No,
that was
literally, that was the one gripe that most of the people told me was they're like, "Oh my god, dude, you totally see his penis." And I'm like, Lily
what
Rose Depp is naked for half of the movie, and you're upset that you see his thing for 4.5 seconds?
I didn't even see it. Well, maybe I wasn't looking for it, so
Thank
that's the other
you.
thing. I didn't see it.
Okay, thank you. Maybe they were looking for it. I don't know.
I was
I'm just
looking
kidding. I'm just
this.
kidding. But that didn't bother me. That doesn't bother me. That
I
didn't
guess
bother
the
me that
sicko in me
much.
was looking at like all the boils and shit on his back. I'm like, oh, he looks real like gnarly there. That's kind of nasty to
I
see.
wish he would have, like, at the end of the movie, if he would have just been, like, creeping up to her and he would have never killed her, that would have been great. I wish she wouldn't have literally died at the end.
That's my thing. I really want to see more interviews from the director or from Robert Eggers, like him and the writing team to figure out what they were going for. Because I understand, at least I think I understand the subplot in regards to like if you are thirsty for companionship in any form and just take it, it can lead to your death. So I get that aspect of it
Oh,
because she was the only one that could. Because it even really resonates with me even more, and I doubled down on that point because she was the only one that could end that suffering. Like it couldn't be her husband to save her to the rescue. Like she had to be the one to be like, okay, I'm going to end this myself. I started being really thirsty for this. I'm in this toxic relationship now. I have to end this. I have to cut this off. I can't just run away from the problem. Even if
and
that,
she literally dies in the process because of her passion.
right? It was.
That's so hard for me to swallow. I hate that.
I will say though, the most unnecessary this most unnecessary scene for me, which is probably the scene that a lot of people like the most, was that random ass sex scene with her and Nicholas Holt. Where I
Yeah,
think you
at the
discussed it
end of it.
earlier.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one at
Yeah,
the end of it where she's like, "You'll never please me the way that he does." And I'm like,
I'm like,
"This is what
it went
this
zero
is
to a
where the
hundred.
movie is at now."
That shit, even that scene, it escalated so fast. I was like,
4 seconds. 4 seconds. It's happening and it's over.
were you in a packed theater? Like, how many people did you have in the theater with you when you watched it?
Oh, it was fully packed. Like, it was a fully packed theater.
Mine was too.
I feel like there was a literal child in there too, and as I was sitting in there, I'm like, "You just deserve this. You brought your kid to this, you deserve
Okay,
this.
why would you bring your
You get to explain this to them whenever you leave."
enjoy explaining that shit to like a 7 year old? Oh my god. Oh, my theater. It
No, if
was
that would have been anyone in my family, they would have picked me up expeditiously and been like, "We're out of here. We're literally I don't care how much I spend on this movie, but we're leaving.
my
We're
family.
leaving right now."
I think maybe once or twice by accident, I like saw a sex scene growing up. My grandpa went the whole hand over the eyes route. He's like, hey, just don't look.
Yep. Mhm. Nope, that happened to me when I was little too.
But one thing I want to point on too is the theater reaction. It was so funny seeing the reaction of everybody in the theater for like scenes like that. The way it was like, there's like a lady behind me. They're like, oh, what the hell going on? Like everybody was kind of like, what's going on here? We don't understand what's going on here. And
That's yeah.
in the moments where the creepy stuff was happening, people were still enjoying that too. But we were just like, I think a lot. The movie comes across a tad pretentious, just a little bit, because I feel like he's trying to convey all these complex themes, but he's so graphic about it. He's not subtle with some of the
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
damn, you're just
no.
really aggressive with this.
Mhm. I
Um,
100% agree with that take. I
another
100% agree with that.
another quick comment from We the Other. Again, thanks for showing up, man. Love seeing new faces in the stream. Thank you so much. He
Yeah.
says, agree. I agree. I thought this was going to be darker and just more horror like. kind of like the last voyage, kind of like the Voyage of the Last Demeter, which I saw. I don't know if you saw that. That was a great movie to me. But instead, it felt like
I
a
did
mix.
see that. Wait, I did see that, and I really enjoyed that
Mm,
actually. I enjoyed that very much. Forgot about that movie.
he said instead, it felt like a mix of '92's Dracula and Demeter, just not on the same level. And Ethan says, "Let's go. Thanks for the love, Ethan." Um,
We miss you, Ethan. What's up?
but that movie, yeah, the Voyage of the Last Demeter, because this essentially is the same story. I think the Voyage of the Last Demeter
Hmm.
only takes place at that ship ride that you saw him on. This
It
movie kind
sure
of,
is.
which I
Such
thought
an
we were gonna.
amazing take, though.
I thought they were gonna like spend more time on that time period because I feel like we kind of like saw him kill a couple people and they kind of jumped through that and got right to when he got to the
It
city.
wasn't about that.
And I'm
It
just
was
like,
about, yeah, it was not about that. It was specifically like this was the story of this woman's like sex life. That's what it was, kind of.
essentially, you know what it feels like? It feels like a horror version of like all the mom like spicy books, like a scary
It's
version of
dark
50 Shades of Grey.
fantasy. It's literally a dark
Literally.
fantasy.
But it's crazy because it's not like women's fantasy. It's like the worst possible thing for women. So it's like give you the medium that you think women would like, but you're giving them their worst nightmare. The shit is insane. I don't know how to feel about it yet. I feel like I need to watch it one more time.
I do too, because I don't know. I feel like people are like saying this is the best movie ever, and I feel like they're just hypnotized by how visually beautiful this movie is.
Mm-hmm.
And they just need to like just spin the block one time, please, and just really pay attention to what literally is happening.
But I think too, sometimes people don't really care about the subplots of movies. It's like they
You're
take what
not
they
wrong.
see. So they're not thinking
Yeah.
about it as much. They saw because if you're somebody who is that, I can see why you love this movie because we got an amazing performance from Skarsgård. Like all that aside, like his take on Count Orlok was amazing. I like my favorite scenes were when Nicholas Holt's character like first got to the castle and he was just at the dinner table with him, and you saw all that. Like all the ways that he was kind of characterizing himself with him being very commanding. He's like, "You'll address me as Lord and Count," and he's like, "No, you should rest. It's a bad omen for you to travel while you're sick." And he's just like commanding him to do these things, but in a very like, how do I say it? Like pretentious, like high esteem or high. I almost said high value. Oh my god.
I will literally leave the chat.
It's from this very
No, I know
like
you don't.
old English.
I've literally,
Yeah.
I feel like I've literally met these people in real life, but like the modern version.
Ethan says Nosferatu was about to count simping really hard. Essentially, he simps really hard. Well, I can't even say simp. He's just like, yeah, I'm taking
I mean,
her.
he's not simping because he gets it at the end. He literally gets her.
Does he? Well, because they do. Well, that is another weird thing too.
He does. He gets her.
Because I
That
saw
whole
it.
last scene, I was literally like, "What is this?"
Because see, they did have. I couldn't tell if they were like actually having it, like doing
No,
the
they
do.
were.
I was
They were
like,
having it.
no. That's my thing. That's my biggest like gripe on the film. If your whole
But she
subplot,
didn't get it. Like, if he was gonna die, he should have just died in the sunlight and just
right,
not got it.
or she should have like trapped him there. I feel like if you're trying to do this whole thing in regards to
She
her,
wanted to, though. Like, that's what I got at the end of the movie. It's like you actually literally don't want to be with your husband or any of this. You actually
right?
do want this.
It's that whole not
That's kind of
Stockholm
what I was
syndrome,
irritated at.
but
It didn't feel like Stockholm syndrome, though. I don't know what it felt like, but I hated that part of it. I didn't like the ending of it.
Thanks so much. He said it's wild because he just saw it today and ran into the stream right after he saw it. So again, hey man, we've talked about a couple other things.
So
Hopefully, me and Danny get to talk about more horror stuff coming up. But I've covered a couple horror movies and different things like that on the channel so far. So if you're interested, I'd appreciate you, dropping that subscription and liking the video and checking out some other stuff. That being said, Ethan says Ellen doesn't fall for him. She's luring him into a trap. I don't know if she wanted him. That's my thing. Because she understands that she has to be the one to kill him.
Then
But
why is she in her husband's face saying you will never please me like this man does, like this Count Orlok would do?
I took that as the inverse. I took that because initially she said that you'll never please me like him. And then she like comes out of the trance and is like, hey, make love to me so we can show him what it really looks like. So I took that as like when she's screaming it out, like her speaking to
I
him.
don't know what it was.
Again, they weren't very clear on the direction for it. But I feel like it should not have ended with them having sex. I feel like that kind of that defeats the purpose.
Why?
I feel like that defeated the purpose of like you trying to teach that lesson about. Oh my God, it's so. Which again, it kind of makes sense a little bit because you're looking at the timeline. I don't know. I'm trying to think about like if they just like when they talked about the timeline of when she finally got, because she talked about being tortured by him and then meeting her husband and immediately getting over that. So I don't know if that was a thing of like a small time span where they got together and got married like really quick because he was like a rebound dude, or if this was they were together for like a while and then got married. If this was a thing where she got over him and got with him really quickly, I could understand her going back to Orlok really quickly because you really never really over him. You just got somebody to maintain your time.
I hear you.
It's, I don't know, man. Again, a lot of this I have to like actually hear what like Robert Eggers is going for, because you could extrapolate a couple different things from the way it was written because it was really left up to like interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really nasty.
Yeah, I wanted it to be scarier and less like actually traumatic, you know?
Yeah. I thought there'd be more murders, man. Especially when he got to the city.
100%.
I thought there'd be more murder.
There's no way. Like, I get that he wants his lady, but he's still a literal vampire.
Because he talked about being insatiable, which I did not think was just in regards to sex.
This woman,
right?
Yeah, that's literally what it felt like. That's kind of what upset me. Like, is he a sexual vampire? Or is he a literal vampire?
Oh my God. It was gnarly. Because again, to your point, when he got there and all the rats came through off the ship, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be sick.
I loved that. That was so cool. I'm like, all right, cool. We're about to get into it.
And then he's just like,
definitely got into something.
He's like, I came here for one reason. He said, what's the
like
Boondocks?
Full on frontal of Count Orlok.
He said, I came here looking for booty. That man.
He did. And he succeeded.
I feel like
he literally stayed in the sunlight because he is laid up with this lady and she was like, no, stay. And he's like, all right, fine.
I'll die. I'll die in it.
Die in the sunlight. Like, that is the part where I was just like, this ending actually just pissed me off.
It was really underwhelming. It was really underwhelming. I'm not gonna lie.
And she's dead. And she's dead on top of it.
There's that, bro. I gotta find an interview. I'm gonna look for an interview at some point of like him talking about this because some of it doesn't make sense. If I find it, I'll send it to you. It was so weird to me, and I'm just as confused. I'm slightly less confused now after I had time to sit on it. But when that movie ended, there's like one guy in my theater trying to like give it a round of applause, and you saw everybody else just kind of like. Everybody sat. Nobody left right away. We all sat in our seats for like. We sat for like 3 minutes. Like, the hell did we just watch?
Oh, literally, me and my friends stayed there until the people came in and started cleaning the theater. We're like, I just want to talk about what we just watched because I want to make sure we're on the same page here. That we're all like a little bit confused.
Man, there's some stuff I would have done differently, but
beautiful movie, casting amazing, acting for this world good. Anything else?
Let's get into some of the more positive stuff about it. I don't want to rag on it for the next 30, but
let's get into it.
Let's get into some of the performances in particular and shine a little bit of light on that. First and foremost, I talked about him and how bad that Craven movie was, but Aaron Taylor Johnson's character uh Friedrich. I cannot. Whatever. I think it was Frederick. Um, I love seeing his like his dive into despair. I'm not gonna lie, because initially when you meet him, I got the idea of
I love that man.
he was phenomenal.
He was beautiful performance. Didn't know that he had to dig up his wife.
Oh, for that final little sequence.
Yeah.
That was wild. Well, I don't know if he had a digger because they had in the crypt, so it was like I think it's just them in there
He
sitting.
exhumed her. What is that called when
I
you
think
just like open a grave?
I think exhumed is the right word for it. I think I don't follow that world too often
Well, he definitely defiled her. Either way,
because
her dead
how did
body.
he
Like
how did he
the
die? I'm trying to figure out like how he because I don't they showed his body but I couldn't
I
tell.
think he got the whatever plague thing that she had.
Oh, is that what it
That's why she
was?
died.
Okay.
Like something like that, or maybe he just died of a broken heart or something romantically tragic like that. I don't know, because that man was so hurt about his wife.
Her death was wild. I'm not gonna lie. That was one of the better like surprises is all the rats like gnawing on her. I was like, oh shit. Like she is getting like tore up right now by a bunch of rats like being around. Which that's another thing I want to look up too, like if the rats were CG, because I couldn't tell if they were all CG or not. Or like how many of them were actually real.
Not.
Because how do you train that many rats to do that? That's kind of crazy. Like, that was a lot of rats.
I used to have a rat. And I got it in one of my psychology classes and I couldn't keep it because I ended up being allergic. I'm like allergic to everything. But it was so smart. So I think you could totally train all those rats.
Yeah, because that was like the swarm her like that. That had to be. Imagine you acting and part of your scene is like you laying down and being swarmed by rats for like, well, it has to be more than one take because you got to do it more than one time. So like,
you definitely have to do that more than one time.
So hours on end, you're just getting like covered in rats.
No.
Nah, dog.
No. I'm good.
The comments have a question. Well, Ethan has a quick question. He said, what is some of your favorite vampire movie? Or what's your favorite vampire movie?
Mine is The Lost Boys.
Really?
Yes. That one is just like a sentimental movie to me because I grew up like I would go see my dad in California in the summer, and him and me and my brother would go to the Santa Cruz Boardwalk.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see where they filmed the movie from there. And that was just like every single summer we'd watch The Lost Boys and we'd go to Santa Cruz Boardwalk. So I'm like locked in with that movie. I love that movie.
I don't think I ever saw that in full. I saw like bits and pieces of it, but I've never seen the full movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
A vampire specific. I think just the easy one, I guess, for me just be Blade 2, just to be that nerd.
Real.
It's like those movies made vampires cool for me. So when I got to like
I love that.
When I got to middle school and Twilight came out, it was I remember growing up in school and it was like all the boys hated Twilight. We hated Big Time Rush and Justin Bieber, and women just loved it. I was a Harry Potter fan, but I could not stand the Twilight movie and the way they were depicting vampires and all.
I just rewatched them, and they're really tacky, but like they have their place and time.
They're funny now. I'm not gonna lie. I laugh hard as hell watching those movies now.
I know they're tacky, but like they're also nostalgic to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But Harry Potter, locked in with them forever. Love. I'm like the biggest Potterhead ever. I love them.
We the Other also says, I get they wanted to show how Orla gets caught in the sun while feeding on her, but I agree the rest they had to do during the scene had me scratching my head. Yeah, with the whole I don't know what they were, because I know he like bit her to suck her dry, pause if needed. But I don't know if they were actually having sex or if that was just supposed to. Obviously, that was supposed to like simulate sex with like him penetrating her literally to like drink her blood, which is like another weird thing where he doesn't like bite you on the neck to get your blood. He like, I guess, bites you directly through your sternum to your heart. I guess I don't know what he's biting.
Is that? I think that's just for her though.
Well, because
like,
he did it
to different going on.
He did it to her husband as well. Remember, her husband had the marks on his chest.
Yeah. I wonder if they do that in the original film or if there's some type of connection to that.
I thought in the original film was on the neck. I thought it was on the neck.
can't
The neck
remember.
makes the most sense because you got the arteries there, so blood will be gushing through when you bite in. When you bite her on the chest, it's like you have a whole big ass piece of like a bone right here that you have to bite through.
We talked about this on Prometheus
Oh yeah,
with the
yeah.
chest bursters.
Well, that's coming out versus him biting in. That's the crazy shit.
I know,
Next comment,
but
my
like,
man. The other also says, I was wondering that too, his kissing his dead wife. Then it cuts to them showing up to find him dead on top of her with Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Yeah, bro. It was
Mhm.
And then Ethan says the Lost Boys is the most Danny answer in a minute.
I
Oh,
love that. That actually makes me so happy.
but yeah, that his performance was amazing. Outside of him, we already discussed Willem Dafoe and how I was low key kind of mad at first because we were like 30 to 45 minutes in and we had not seen Willem Dafoe yet. So in my head, I'm like,
You're like, well, where is he?
I'm like, did I miss him? Was he another character that I already like not paid attention to? But as soon as they like show like they like mentioned another character and a doctor, and as soon as I heard his voice, I'm like, yeah, we're about to get into this shit now.
Yep.
It's about to get good now, and it did. It did. I enjoyed him a lot. And there are other characters I think that did a great job, but those were like my standouts that I really like. I feel like stole every scene they were in, either subconsciously or because Robert Eggers had them steal the scene that they were in for reasons. And then
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
he says in the original movie, yeah, he does feeds on people through their neck. And some of his faves, I'd say Near Dark and The Comedian Once Bitten. I've never seen either of those. Are you overseas or are you in the States? I'm curious. I feel like it sounds British, or like you're in London somewhere, but I could be wrong. But yeah, man, this movie, it's a movie. I don't know what to say because I enjoyed my time watching it, but I can also look at like how problematic it can be. I think I need to just hear more women's perspectives on it because again, I'm not looking at it through
I would like to as
that
well
lens.
because I've quite literally only heard male perspectives on this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know.
Because they had a lot of, again, it had the monster, it had boobs, guys. It was random boobs. I'm not gonna lie.
It had so much.
When they cut to
someone was like, "It's a full frontal." I'm like, "Yeah, of literally Lily Rose Depp most of the time. So what do I care if we see the front of Count Orlok for 4 seconds?"
for her, I wouldn't even worry. It wasn't even her scene that got me. It was when he had gotten to that village with I guess he calls them the gypsies for lack of a better term. I don't know if that's a slur or not. But
I don't know if it is actually.
Yeah, y'all let me know if that's a slur. I don't want to keep saying that if that is, but when he like wakes up in that dream he has, and you just see that woman on top of the horse naked, I'm like, why is she naked? Why is she on a horse naked?
Oh yeah. Yep, going through the woods. Yep.
I'm like, is there like a ritual I'm not remembering? Because all they really did was have that one guy stake the corpse. I'm like, okay, cool, that makes sense. But why for you to do that did you need her naked on this horse?
It didn't.
I'm like,
there was a lot of scenes where like I'm just like we literally didn't need to do that.
I feel like you could have kept the first scene, like the first like scene of like her having the fling with him, because you could not, at least for me, I think you can misunderstand what that is until they tell you later in the movie. You could keep the scene of like maybe
100%.
them discussing, because he had that scene where they like were face to face discussing like how much he enjoyed her. You can even keep up everything up until that crazy sex scene that she has with him with Nicholas Holt's character, where she discusses him pleasing her. I think you can discuss a lot of this stuff, but I feel like there was just some overtly sexual things just for the shock value.
Just cause.
I'm just like, damn.
I agree. The shock value wasn't like, oh, it was like,
Ethan says he saw it with two lady friends, and he said his lady friends didn't hate it or didn't love it. They were kind of mad on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is one where if you've been through a relationship like this, is when it's going to hit you a lot harder, which I think a lot of women have. I think in general, and I think this is why the message can be a little powerful, because I think everybody at some point goes through that phase of wanting companionship really bad, especially if you're like someone that has friends that are in relationships, or you are, in my example, you're in like a southern school or a southern town where you're seeing all your classmates get married and having children at like 20. And I'm like, okay, now you're making me feel like I'm behind because I'm 24, 25 with no kids, and you were kid number 2 at 25. You have that need for companionship, but it's kind of like that message of, hey, don't just look for companionship for the sake of companionship, because it can be dangerous. You can find the wrong people that will manipulate you like this, especially with her being that young. Which I still don't know how. I still don't really enjoy her being that young, because why is she looking for that kind of companionship that young? Because she looked like she was like what, like maybe 9, 10 in the beginning of that movie.
Young, little.
Like, go outside and play with sticks or something. Damn, why are you worried about that? 9, 10.
Literally, I don't know, but that's why it's like the grooming aspect comes in, and it's like creepy. Like they talk about how he's irresistible and nobody can resist him, and everything about him pulls people into him, and da da da.
Now the gore. Let's talk on the gore a little bit, because this is it's where we thrive
Love that
at.
part.
Do you have a scene that shocked you the most when you saw it? Maybe not shocking, but like it stood out to you with regards to some of the gore. I have mine, but I wanted to see
So
what
like
yours.
ones that like make me like things that like make me cheer and I like get excited for. I love when he just like decapitated the bird and then like there was blood spraying everywhere and he had like blood all over his mouth.
Oh yeah, when he was in the prison and he was.
Yes.
Yeah. That was
Oh,
crazy.
that one had me cheering. That one made me very happy because that was obviously like they had a little blood pump and they were just spraying this dude with fake blood. So I love any type of like blood spray. I enjoyed that.
They got carried away with that blood spray too. I was like, how much blood
Yeah,
does this
I
pigeon
like
have?
that. Like way freaking more than it needed. I loved that.
For me, it was a scene where I'm always weird about when movies do it, because that whole thing of like killing the kids is usually a no in horror. But when you open up the door and he's like holding both that man's daughters by their necks out and just drop the bodies, I was like, oh my god.
That was so good, yo. I forgot about that.
It made it even worse
That
when
was
you
good.
because earlier in the movie they had that conversation of like, Daddy, there's a monster under the beds. And Dad was like, yeah, I have to go kill a monster under their bed. And then you cut fast forward to like him literally tearing those girls apart and just like
Literally
drinking
being
them.
murdered in front of his dad. That man.
Bro. But yeah, that was the one for me that stood out the most. Because I was like,
Great.
damn. Because
I forgot about that scene.
I'm curious to know what if those were like dummies, or I mean, obviously they'd be some kind of like puppet, I guess, to the
For
bodies.
sure. You can definitely make silicone pieces like that like will move and kind of fall like a human.
Mm-hmm.
So they possibly could have been. I would love to know as well.
They got to be heavy though, right? For him to hold them like each in one hand, like yeah, at each by the neck. I'm like, damn, okay, Bill.
I mean, it's Bill Skarsgård, so I feel like he could do it.
Is he a large dude like that? I thought he was a shorter guy.
He's tall.
Is he?
We're
Oh,
gonna Google how tall he is.
yeah, I'm curious now. Bill Skarsgård. While I'm doing that, Ethan said my friends did appreciate the allegories with mental
He's
health.
6'4".
Damn, is he that tall? Jesus. Bro's taller than me.
That's what I said.
I'm used to. Relax.
I love him.
Oh man.
I love him. And I was so sad you couldn't see his sweet little face.
Oh my gosh.
Hairy little face.
Part of me enjoys that. I kind of enjoy seeing how the actor transformed. I think recent example was was Colin Farrell in the Penguin show. I don't know if you watched that series or not.
Yeah. I haven't watched it, but I was pretty deeply intertwined with the makeup. I like followed his makeup artist and like the makeup was really, really amazing on that.
When I saw him in the Batman movie, I'm like, yeah, it was a good movie. The Penguin was really good. They're like, you mean Colin Farrell? I'm like, Colin Farrell? What the fuck was he at the movie? They're like, no, he was the Penguin. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
So, I mean, maybe that was the goal with their makeup, was to completely remove Bill Skarsgård from the role.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was their goal, because if that was their goal, then they ate that and they fully did that for me. But I did wish I saw him a little more in it.
His voice was insane. Like when he was in the castle, he was like almost like growling and speaking at the same time
Yes.
and doing a smoothie.
Yes. I feel like he definitely had to do like some vocal training for that for sure.
Because doing that, like what I remember from me taking my voice lessons in college and semi training as a singer is how bad like you're grinding your vocal cords like that. It doesn't take long before it's like you can get those vocal nodes, the nodes or
Nodules.
nodules. Yeah,
Yeah.
you developing
Yeah.
those or just fucking up
Yeah,
your
the
voice.
nodes. Especially with the getting into that like gravelly sound with the voice,
Mm-hmm.
even that vocal fry, whatever. But there are safe ways to do that. Like if you think about people that are like lead singers of any metal band,
Yeah, they go crazy with that. I'm like,
those
bro.
like I know if I know no, I know a few people that like do that stuff, and there's very specific vocal techniques that allow you to like scream and do pretty wild things with your voices in a safe way.
Ethan said that was his actual voice that gave him PTSD.
They did.
It
And
was
because I literally, I was arguing with my friend. I was like, "There's no way that this can be his voice. There's no way." I was sick. I was sick when I found out that this is this man's voice. I'm like, I don't think that he can sound like that.
cause I assumed they like enhanced it like in post edits with some of the sound design stuff, or maybe had him like ADR. Because a lot of it you didn't see
For
his face, so
sure.
you could easily like just aid like him get into a booth and just talk, and then you kind of
Hmm.
enhance some of that stuff of post edits because you don't really see him speak as much. You just see his silhouette a lot. So I think it could have been easy for him to do.
I think they definitely probably enhanced it in many ways.
It was again, this was a very interesting film to me. If you had to give it a grade, what would you grade this film out of 10?
Oh my God.
How many rats you giving
I'm
it out of 10?
going, how many rats would I give it out of 10? That makes this way easier. 5.5 rats out of 10 because I'm gonna grade it harshly.
Now, how much of that is the
It was a
subplot?
visually dope and beautiful, but like the subplot really kind of threw me off from the whole thing. Like
Mm.
it can be a beautiful movie and have an amazing cast, but like I don't know. I wasn't in love with it.
This is when I definitely would like. I would not show this to a friend. I feel like this is like the perfect like college course film where you have like a
Hmm.
philosophy class or like a class you want to like have a discussion on, and you can show it to a class. But this is something I'm
Yeah.
not like, hey, my homegirl or like such and such. I'm not gonna show this. I'm not showing this to them. I'm sorry. I'm not showing this
Like you
to
guys
them.
should come over and watch a movie. We're gonna watch this one.
Like even if I'm dating you, like I don't know if I wanted to show this to you. It's just in her mind, like, why the hell do you want to show me this movie? What the hell?
Yeah, no, like I don't know that I would rewatch that. I'll rewatch the original one that came out in like 1922 or whatever.
Mm.
But I don't know that I'm gonna rewatch this.
I would probably give it like I give it 7 rats out of 10. I think I genuinely enjoyed
Okay.
it.
I was gonna
And
give it 6.
yeah, I'd probably set this up because I usually when I grade these movies, I try not to be a super harsh critic, and I try to look at it from the aspect: okay, did I watch the whole movie? Did
Mhm.
I enjoy the movie? Was I entertained? Did I feel like I wanted to leave like midway through? Was I like taken out of it the entire time? And at least for me, probably again more so probably that's I haven't experienced it. I didn't get taken out as much by the subplot. Now the
Mhm.
heavy sexual scenes like that took me out. At least the 3 of those that were in there that I saw. But outside of that, I was pretty, not enthralled. I was pretty, I guess, focused in the world. But
Just
there
like
is some stuff that
entertained, like it's supposed to, like it's supposed to entertain us. And if you were
yeah.
entertained,
But
get
less
those
definitely
7 rats.
less is definitely more though. I'm not gonna lie. This could have been a 9 or a 10 if they would have less more.
I
And
agree.
then we the other also says for sure Skarsgård is tall and Orlok is like 7'1", which is why they focus a lot in this film. So yeah, it may make sense for the characters if he's tall. Because in the
Mhm.
original movie, he didn't seem that tall to me. I thought he was a shorter man in the original silent film.
He seems like a literal rat in the original one.
He's like
which is
clinching over
so
a lot
funny. Like he
too,
doesn't. Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
which is weird because even in this version of him, when you see him in the end, he has a hunchback. So like he should be hunching over.
I wanted him to be just like so visceral. If he would have been like a little small rat man, like that would have been so gross, and I would have been like so messed up over that.
But I also get like the perspective shots of like them, whenever,
Yes,
especially when she was there, where they're like showing him
1,000%.
being this
That
large
was so
being.
good. That was so
Yeah,
good. I
it's that
loved that.
it
I
was it
loved that.
was oh man, again.
And then you would catch a glimmer of his mustache, and I'm like, I want to burn this movie to the ground. I'm so mad at that mustache. If you don't get that mustache out of my face.
I should have got a fake mustache for this stream. Like grown mine hell out. Like it look crazy.
I should have too.
Oh man, I gotta start prepping for these better. But yeah, do
I
you have any
literally
like
just looked at the cast picture, and William Dafoe looks like Olaf did in the movie. The cast picture.
I'm convinced he just has fun in his roles at this point. Like he just is picking roles just to have fun. Because he
He's
like
awesome for that.
like him in this was amazing. Seeing him as the Green Goblin in the last Spider-Man movie, I'm like, yeah, he's just having fun with his roles now.
I love that for him. He deserves that.
I love when actors get to that point in their careers where it's like you don't have to prove yourself. Like you're already a legend. You can just pick whatever the fucking role you want to do, like big or small, and just have fun.
You get to just exist and make money, get that dough.
Literally.
Hmm.
But yeah, before we ready to wrap up, because I want to hold you all day. You have any like closing thoughts and or sentiments about the film?
No. I don't. I don't. I feel like I've said what I needed to say about the movie, and I don't have any extra like niceties. I know that this like really landed for some people, and I'm so happy it landed for them. But I'm gonna stick to the 1922 version.
I just forgot to use those at all. Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I enjoyed it. To your point, to agree with you, I don't think I'll go back and rewatch this anytime soon. If it's on somewhere or I'm forced to watch it like a film festival or something, I would maybe sit down and watch it with people for the conversation for sure. But I think it is a great
Mm,
conversation starter.
for
Um,
sure.
which yeah, we the other says the rat rating. He loves that. He gives the acting 8 rats, but the film I think I'll go maybe 4 to 5 rats. And I agree. I think for me that
Respect
8 to 5
that.
balanced it out for me. I agree with that.
Respect that.
But for the people that
100%.
are seeing you for the first time, do you want to tell people where they can find you or maybe what you have coming up? Or I know you talked about before, we talked about you doing some stuff in the future. I don't know how close you are to.
My entire life is in the, you know, I don't know where it is. We're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see what happens. I literally don't know. I love being on this channel. I love to pop in and kind of
Mm,
do some celebrity shots. That's a blast. Hopefully, I do have some of my own content coming in the future, but we'll just have to see.
yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see
Yeah.
it. For people that are here for the first time, again, this particular video is the Captain's Lounge. The channel you are on is Captain Diesel's Dojo for people that have not come here before. I tend to cover nerdy stuff, comics, anime, gaming, all that good stuff. But I am an avid horror fan, so I have a lot of different reviews and discussions on horror movies on the channel as well. But the Captain Lounge videos are just a chance for me to be able to have discussions with my friends or maybe potential people that I just met somewhere, so different content creators and whatnot. That I just want to have a genuine conversation with. Because for a lot of my stuff, I'm scripting it, I'm preparing it a lot ahead of time. So these just kind of give me a chance to kind of really just be prepared to an extent because I'm still like doing my research on the movie, but not have to do as much stuff with background music and things of that nature. I can just have a genuine conversation with my friends and people that I admire. So again, if you want to see more of these, I think this is like episode like 5 or 6, maybe. It's not been too many thus far. And check out the rest of the channel. I just dropped a video today on Revenge Tales that me and my buddy Ethan worked on
Mm.
the script for. I think it's the best thing I've ever put out so far. I put a lot of time and work into that video, and yeah, I think it's the magnum opus of the channel so far. So if you guys would do me a pleasure of checking that out, and if you like it, like it. If not, you don't ever have to come back. Uh, but again, this has been Danny and Captain Diesel of Captain Diesel's Dojo, and today the Captain's Lounge. And remember, forever and always,
You're now watching the captain.
and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.